Hi everyone, my name's Sarah. I am the professor for OL 612 Conflict Management. This is the very first video of the class, the silly video, or nicknamed that because we're going to go over the syllabus. I'm going to talk about the syllabus. I'm going to talk about what is this class about and the different things about this class specifically. I'm also going to talk a bit about the assignments and the most important thing, you've got to choose a book, and I want to talk about the book choice that is coming up for you. Uh, and I guess we'll just see what else comes. One thing about my videos, if you haven't had me as a professor before, when I make these tiny desk lecture videos, is I really do it as if I was in the classroom with you or we were in a synchronized Zoom ready room uh, where I am trying to dialogue with you. I have not memorized anything. I'm not reading a script. It's not a manuscript driven presentation. I'm doing what's called extemporaneous speaking, which is I have a plan. I do have a plan. I know the things I want to make a point about, though there's an element of as it comes out, I guess I don't think improv's the right word, but there's an element of conversational or dialogue approach to my presentation. And I don't edit this in post after I make it. A lot of the YouTube videos you're watching these days from our YouTube content creators is that they are editing to compress their speaking time and their pauses, and they're compressing it to get you the most information as quickly as possible. And since this is a communication class, and one of the skills we're learning is how to listen in conversation, not only is this dialogue approach where we're not reading, I have a plan of what I want to say, I haven't memorized anything, is really for us to get used to the natural rhythm of a voice and how to stay focused on that. So no edits here. It's just me. That means I might pause. I might stumble over my words every now and then, or I might say the wrong thing. And we're just going to go with it because I'm not expecting you to be perfect in this class, and I am definitely not perfect. So as you will soon find out as we traverse through, I'm all in the learning curve. So this is an organizational leadership program, and I teach the conflict management and the organizational communication class. I am a communication professor, and my expertise that I've developed over my academic career is in conflict and managing conflicts. And I specifically study stakeholder engagement, facilitations, mediation, negotiations, and interpersonal dialogue. When we get into interpersonal dialogue and interpersonal communication, we're really talking about how we're relating to each other. And so this is a great thing that we need to do when we're studying leadership because leaders, which isn't always the person with power, leaders sometimes emerge out of those quiet moments of being able to navigate your core values and make space for others and what are the ethics of communication and how to self-regulate yourself in difficult moments. And that's where leadership really emerges from. And so, if in the program, when we take this class, you might want to approach this class in a lot of different ways. Maybe from a more managerial or supervisor position, maybe in group dynamics, maybe coaching a team, or even just being a player on a team. We need our leaders, we need people to emerge in groups that know how to manage and relate and do relating and social interactions and in social spaces. But What's amazing about this class, and it has just been a delight for me, is that this class has attracted a lot of people across our entire campus. We have people from interpreting studies, people in education, criminal justice, athletics. There's all different kinds of people coming into this class, even if they're not part of our organizational leadership master's program. And that is a special that's special for me just because I do think the way I'm trying to teach this class is for you to make it your own. And so, for example, when I talk about the books, you will be choosing a book. The way the class is designed around dialogue and cooperative spaces is a way that we are trying to create a lab, like a communication lab of what does it really mean to be in shared spaces with other people. So, that being said, this is a communication class. That means you're going to have to communicate. You're going to communicate with me. Hi. We don't have synchronized lectures. There's no synchronized class times. I will post these Tiny Desk lecture videos. You also will be posting some videos for the class, and I'll ask you to speak similar in style as me to the purpose of whatever is the video the presentation that we're doing for that assignment. But I'll also be asking you to dialogue in small groups. I will assign you a group somewhere at the end of week 2. You'll get your group, and as soon as you get your group, you have 3 meetings with your group, which I call conflict roundtables. And I like the image of the round table because it creates this kind of persona for the meeting it to be a dialogue. You're going to meet on Zoom, you'll record them, you'll submit those videos to me. And I've created a structure, I'm not just choosing who you're going to be in the meeting with, but I'm choosing the structure of what questions and topics you'll be discussing in your meeting. And that is the assignment. The assignment is a communication lab. And the first challenge of that is actually a type of conflict, and that is deciding when you're going to meet. It is summer term. Summer term, I mean, it's a challenge 365 days a year to coordinate schedules with, and especially in when you're a student and you're a professional and you have family and work and all of the other obligations and responsibilities of your life. This challenge, the challenge of scheduling your meeting is does not escape me as one of the primary components of this assignment, and it is your first conflict that you will have to resolve. And you will have to think about how you're approaching that first conversation with your team when you are first in dialogue, where you are advocating for self, but you are also making room for others. And that is really at the heart of this class. How do we create advocacy for self and make room for others? Collaboration really is asking you about that primary question. Uh, and so we're going to go about it in lots of different ways. And we don't use the word collaboration in this class without understanding the full importance of it. Collaboration gets used a lot in the world. And a lot of people like to say, oh, we collaborated and came to a decision, but often you had an extrovert in the room with more power than anyone else, and they said what their idea was, and everyone agreed. Um, and patterns like that emerge, and they think agreement is collaboration, but agreement is not collaboration. Collaboration is conflict, and it is being able to sit in the discomfort of different perspectives, people having different perspectives, different ways they're defining problems, different ways they see the path to solution. All of those things make up collaboration. But we'll put a pin in that for now. I think that's week 4 when we talk about collaboration. And we're still in the syllabus video, so I don't want to jump ahead. So, as a communication class, one thing I want to emphasize is that there's lots of different types of areas in communication studies. There's presentation, like public speaking and rhetoric, how we use language to persuade, and the ethics of persuasion is all in kind of encompassed in public speaking and rhetorical studies and ethics and rhetoric. We always want to put ethics and rhetoric together because if we are just trying to persuade without ethics, we start going into manipulation and we start actually creating maybe propaganda and other techniques um, that are kind of start leaning into more authoritarian styles of presenting, where rhetoric, when we talk about rhetoric with that grounding ethic to it, we're really actually providing information in a way to create dialogue, curiosity, and things like that. Other fields in communication is interpersonal communication. Interpersonal communication is the conversation. It's the conversation, it's the dyad. It's really the one on one back and forth of what is happening when we are in conversation, whether that is with a coworker, with a romantic partner, with a parent and a child, uh, professionals in workplaces to best friends hanging out after work. Whatever it is, whenever we are in conversation, we are studying interpersonal communication. And this is just as big and as important a field as our rhetorical studies part wing of communication studies. This one includes a lot of non-verbals, and we might find family communication here. We might find health communication, gender communication, intercultural communication. I'm looking at my list here. Uh, Things like that kind of start emerging in this bubble of communication studies. Other bubbles include group and team communication or group dynamics, dialogue, conversations, stakeholder engagement. And then the last kind of major bubble wing of communication studies is usually mass media. Here, here in mass media, we're really looking at the when we are presenting to hundreds and thousands and nowadays millions of people media uh, through media channels, through the channel of media, where interpersonal is looking at when we're one-on-one, and that could be channel lean from like texting to all the way to channel rich, which could be face-to-face, actually in person. And then public speaking is the one to the many, and it's usually when we talk about public speaking, because you can see how it might be like a Venn diagram. There's some overlap here, but we're really talking about when someone gives a speech. You know, like if I was actually in the classroom with you and you were all sitting down and I was standing at the front of the room with my PowerPoint clicker and my copies to hand out of the syllabus, we might actually consider that more of a public speaking or rhetoric style of communicating. This feels a little different. I'm posting this to YouTube, so that it's got a mass media component. That makes me feel really uncomfortable, but we'll get into that later. Uh, then there is it's asynchronous, so obviously I can't get the rich feedback of a channel rich situation where your nonverbals are impacting how the things I say and how I'm engaging, because we definitely say the transactional nature of being in person has a much more dynamic component to it. So, mass media here, it also includes social media, advertising, marketing, branding. All of those things are part of that kind of mass media, journalism, all kind of fall into that. All right. So, that being said, in the realm of academic communication, we are studying conflict management And we are really looking at it in the interpersonal realm. So, interpersonal conflict management would be how we want to define what we're doing. Conflict studies, you can find conflict studies in political science, you can find conflict studies in philosophy, you can find conflict studies in global, you know, global, there's obviously global conflicts. It seems like every time I start this class, there's another headline that is relevant for that category. And those things are actually an important part of what's happening interpersonally with us. However, uh, it's not the primary focus of this class is political conflict or global conflict. We are looking at what is happening in the relating. Now, obviously, we sometimes have conflict in our conversations with the people we love, our family or friends, about politics and about global issues and things like that. So they are relevant to what we're studying. Uh, and we definitely might see those kind of topics pop up a little like popcorn as we need examples and ways that we are trying to understand other perspectives other than our own, or how to relate to them and what might be happening with those. So we've got communication, interpersonal conflict management, and we are diving into that topic. When we study conflict management in this class, I'm really approaching it as I want you to have you come to the class with a toolbox. Now you might already have some really effective tools in your toolbox for dealing with conflict. You got to this place, and so you obviously have some competency skills to get signed up for this class and get to this point. Uh, you might have some tools in your toolbox that have worked, but have they really created relationship building or trust? Maybe you got your way, or maybe you didn't get your way. And we want to kind of unpack those and really lay out what tools you're using. We also, and how you're coming into the class and how you're viewing conflict. Let's really mark it right here on the silly day. How do you think of conflict coming into this class? And then as we go through week one, where we're going to start defining what is interpersonal conflict management and we get into the impact of it and the history of it, I want you to start noticing the difference from coming into the class from week one, week two, when we add in culture and intercultural communication, week three, when we talk about goals and interests, week four, when we talk about collaboration and accommodation and compromise, week five, when we hit, what do we hit week five? I think it's emotions. Yes, emotions. And then week six is nonviolence and nonviolent communication and nonviolent protest. And then week seven, we hit face work and negotiations and bargaining. And week seven is really when we get to conflict resolution and what does that look like. We put that off till the very and the very last week of content that we cover in this class is on forgiveness versus reconciliation. And we're going to really tease out the difference between forgiveness and reconciliation. Those are the main module topics. There is a lot of theory and frameworks and vocabulary. You are going to have a lot of vocabulary. I don't know how you do with vocabulary. I expect you to be able to start articulating ideas using our vocabulary words, thus the roundtable Zoom labs, communication labs, and those presentations, and there's some writing assignments. The more of that you can really try and get that vocabulary in there, the more you are going to really start getting into the tools and how to really think about them. We don't really live in a time in our society where memorization is valued, but I think if you can add a little bit of memorization or the way you drill yourself or test yourself on these things, if you can really challenge yourself to apply them and demonstrate knowledge, it will significantly change your life. It will significantly change how you show up in loving relationships. It's going to significantly change how you can manage your career and different things that may have been things that have been difficult. Now, I can't promise you there won't be any more conflict. I'm definitely not promising that. And I definitely cannot promise you that conflict will all of a sudden not be painful or difficult, but we're going to learn how to sit in it a little bit more, sit in the discomfort of a conflict and feel a little more secure as we go on the ride. Um, I'm a runner, just up front, so this is something that I've had to cultivate and learn, and I definitely understand the journey is not easy, and sometimes even I can hit a wall. And it's another reason why I love teaching this class because it helps me practice too. So let's get a little more detail into the class now that we kind of have an overview. Let's talk about the books next. You have to choose a book, and hopefully, if you found this silly video in the Start Here module on our Canvas page, you also saw in the Start Here module the required readings of our class. And I have 4 books picked out for the term for you to choose from. You only need one. Very clearly. Here are the 4 books. I have Fight Right by Dr. Julie Gottman and Dr. John Gottman, the Gottmans. I have Good Inside by Dr. Becky Kennedy, Priya Parker, The Art of Gathering, and a newer book for our class, Thanks for the Feedback. And maybe I'll just start with this one since I'm holding it. So if you choose Thanks for Feedback, one of the things you can expect from this book is the direction of this book is not how to give feedback, but how to receive feedback. And basically what is the difference between a really constructive feedback message that you're getting, or when is criticism overstepping a line, when is enough enough? When are you enough? It's going to explore a lot of different topics and the psychology of resistance to feedback and why sometimes we want feedback and sometimes we don't. And sometimes we never want feedback on certain parts of our life. Sorry, you don't get to tell me what you think of that. Just watch some reality TV shows if you want to see this in full emotional, non-emotional regulation, full force drama. So it says the science of art and receiving feedback. It gets in really into psychology, some neuroscience. This is going to be a really interesting one. I actually struggled with this book. I'm not going to lie. I wasn't sure if this belonged in my organizational communication class or did I need it in the conflict management class, but it focuses so much on the back and forth of a conversation. Um, Here, I just opened into it and it says navigate the conversation. Uh, so yeah, uh, I think it belongs in this class, but it does have a bit of a workplace context to it. Though I think just like all of these, there's a context to each one of these, but you can use it. The advice you get in one book is going to help you with all different kinds of situations. So if you're struggling with criticism, if you are trying to figure out the dynamics of power and perception and emotional triggers, this is a good one. Actually, all of these kind of deal with emotion. The next one I have here is The Art of Gathering by Priya Parker. So Priya Parker wrote this book in 2018, right before the pandemic. And I think it was really the pandemic where she and this book took off because all of a sudden, as we saw a shift in hybrid workplaces or even from family events and weddings and funerals having to be on Zoom, Priya Parker kind of like skyrocketed into our collective conscious. And the things that she has in this book and the videos she's made on YouTube and some of the interviews she does really took off at the beginning of the pandemic, and they really helped us understand a bit of what we were missing with this kind of isolation thing that started to happen as we were facing a world pandemic. So, this is a really incredible book for team building, group dynamics, that most important word, collaboration. If you're curious about group norms, or if you have to do project management and get people to connect, and design spaces for creativity or innovation, you might get a lot out of this book. And because we know collaboration is a type of conflict, this book is going to be a really great way to set up spaces for that creative conflict piece. All right, we're getting to two of the foundation books. These two are really, really important books. And if I were you, I wouldn't know how to choose. I have the preference, it would be hard for me. Dr. Becky Kennedy, this book is a practical guide to becoming the parent you want, but I don't want you to be fooled by that word parent. I think this book, I don't think, I know this book is going to help navigate uh, big feelings. It's going to help you navigate challenging conversations. It's going to help you kind of understand a little bit what your reaction is like in conflict based on your own family dynamics. It's going to pull on the roots and strings of family dynamics and how it sets up how we handle conflict, and how to better understand how to maybe do it a little better, or how to do it with how to understand it a little bit better, what maybe happened to you as a little person. If you're a teacher in this class, if you're in an education program and do teaching, if you are a parent, you might find it interesting. But just so you know, like, I have a friend who read this book, and she is an administrative assistant at a corporation, and she uses this book to manage customers coming in. She uses it to manage supervisors and corporate office calls. And for her, this book is an essential workplace book, even though she translates the parent-child metaphor into her workplace. Um, so those of you who are on the front lines of customer service might also um, find that book really as an interesting way to think about it. The Gottmans. The Gottmans are, oh, the Gottman Institute is one of the primary modern shifts in how we understand conflict. What Gottman did with his research at the Gottman Institute, starting in the 1970s in Seattle, and then creating a whole taxonomy from his research of are the masters of communication and the disasters of communication. And in fact, a lot of the modern sensibility of the way I've designed this course is foundationed in the Gottman's research. Even week one, we go over the four horsemen of the apocalypse, which is a Gottman concept. Um, and yes, they focus mostly on married and romantic couples as their research. But again, just like all of these context of what these people are talking about can be used in all different kind of forms. Another note is, if you've noticed, almost all these books have some type of tabs listed on them. When you get your book, you're going to want to divide this into, because it's summer, I usually say 8 weeks for a regular term, but I think 7. You're going to want to read this book in 6 to 7 terms. So take the page numbers and divide up how many pages you have to read a week, so you can track each week. And I would divide this up. I have it, can use all different kinds of posties or cards. Some people use index cards to divide it up as well. Okay, that's the book. How will you choose? I don't know. I'm I love all of these books. Obviously, I wouldn't choose a book that I didn't read myself, and I don't think that I wouldn't think would be effective for this class. I can't wait to see which ones you choose. Really think about it for you. If you go on Canvas, you can see I made a table. Best if you want, this book is best if you want this. What's the tone of the book, the focus of each topics, things like that. If you're still torn, I have a little note here in the Canvas page. If you're still torn, which title made you the most uncomfortable? Which one did you roll your eyes at? Because often growth hides behind resistance. And it's a good note to think about what your emotional reaction was to the titles. Uh, don't force yourself if you're not ready, but it's a good way to gauge maybe how you might push yourself a little this term. This class will push you no matter what. There's no way to avoid it. This class is interested in you unpacking some of your experiences, and conflict is one of the emotional topics that we have to navigate in our life. And it does trigger us. Trigger warning for this class, or content warning. Things will come up, and it isn't the nature of this class. All right, the next thing I'm going to talk about, we're getting through it. We're doing so good. The assignments. All right, so the assignments. Week one has a much bigger assignment than some of the other. There's this assignment called Week One Communication Basics, and it is a long assignment. It takes a long time to do, and it is the first week of the term, and you have your icebreaker discussion board where you have to post a photograph, uh, look for the instructions on that, and reply to others in the discussion board. You have quite a bit of new content. You have two Tiny Desk Professor videos. You have this silly video, but then look down in week one. I have my Tiny Desk first lecture video, and you'll have to watch that one as well. And that will help us define conflict and get you a good overview of the history. So week one is full. Get ready. We take off out of the station. So manage your time. Open up that week one basics, communication basic report. My advice to you is open that as a document, whatever document platform you feel most comfortable in. And as you're going through week one module, keep that open and do it as, like, if it says, respond to my week one tiny desk lecture, not this one, the week one. Then watch it and respond. Then it says, watch two videos, listen to the podcast, things like that. I would do it right in sync with that. It takes a lot of time, but we're really building a foundation base, and then things will kind of stretch out a little bit more after that, a little bit, but you won't have as big a writing assignment. We have some other writing assignments that come up later, starting week 2, 4, 6, and 8. And these are more, this isn't like quite as long where you had to do like quotes and response to everything that was posted. Those other ones are more like a journal entry where I'm expecting you to infuse the quotes and the vocabulary into one journal entry. So it's a little bit different. And that will open up week 2, so you'll get that. You've got your icebreaker discussion boards. Who are you? And then there's a part 2 that will come up in week 2. You have a video. You get to post a video here. And what I'd really like in your video is to be sure to, you're going to talk about which book you chose. And I'd love it if you wrote the title on a note card to use. And I like it if you use note cards in your video. Please do not put up anything on your computer screen that you have to read, even if it's just keywords. It's a very distracting nonverbal. I'd rather you, like me, I have my notes here. I'd rather you have something held if you had to look down and then look up and talk to us. And then you get another keyword. Just like my notes, they're just keywords and I'm obviously not reading anything. So I expect the same thing from you. The book, it will take a while to make that first video. Also, something you might do 3 or 4 rounds before you make the video. And that's just because it's very short and it takes a while to learn how to make something really concise. But I do want you to focus on that time element. That's one of the skills we're trying to build in the class is how to make information concise and in style. They won't all be that short, but definitely you telling me which book you chose and why should only take about 90 seconds or so. So it's the challenge. Think of it as a challenge. Okay. There's an assignment where you have to meet with me in a Zoom office. That does not open up till week 3, and then it's due. We have like a 2 or 3 week block in July where I'll open up a bunch of appointments. You make appointment in the schedule blocks that I have. You'll sign up, and I can't wait to meet you and talk to you. Come to the office visit with a question. Hopefully, a stump the professor question, but you know, we'll chat. I got you. I know it feels weird to have to chat, but we're going to do it. And we're going to talk about the class. And I do have spoilers if you want them for the class. Any assignment where you saw the title, but it's not open yet, and you want to know what it's about, hey, ask me. I'll tell you. No secrets here. Well, I've got secrets, but not from the class. Let's see. And so there's presentations. There's the children's book report where you're going to choose a children's book and analyze the conflict in it and the intercultural communication components. The metaphor report, where you're going to create your own metaphor for conflict. Uh, Music and lyrics, we're going to analyze song conflict in songs and the lyrics. There's so much fun stuff there. All right. We also have one of the foundational things is our roundtables. I talked a little bit about it at the beginning of this video. So there's in the Start Here module, there is a Start Here conflict roundtables. It has a little miniature emoji chair, so you can find it really easy. And I talk all about what this assignment is. I talk about the norms, but at the very bottom, if you're willing to scroll all the way to the bottom, you will actually find the due dates for all 3 of our conflict roundtables. There's 1 week 3, 1 5, and 1 8. And when you get your team names, once that first one opens up, you'll scroll down, you'll find the teams, you'll find your name in there. Someone is going to be the leader of the group and send out a message right away and start collaborating, starting your first conflict to negotiate what time you can meet. And uh, there's some things about this assignment that are really important. Like even though it has a due date, because on Canvas I put the due date in, I do accept it up to 5 days late if that's what the schedule allows for people in your group. So if you're someone who's like, oh my God, I'm going to be on vacation and I won't be back till this day, so we've got to do it now. But it just opened and everyone's like, but I'm not ready because there's a lot you have to get ready for a meeting. You have to be ready for the meeting. There's some homework to do before going in. You can say, well, actually, the professor said we can turn it in late. So maybe we can do it after you come back from your vacation or your summer conference you have to go to, whatever it is that came up, and do it then. Now, if that same person, if you set the date, everything, and you try to make room for someone, and then they once again come in and said, oh, something came up and I can't actually do it. Everyone's allowed to miss, not everyone. Well, okay. You're allowed to miss one of your team's meetings and be able to make it up in week 10 of the term. That is available. If the whole team misses the meeting, then everyone gets a 0 on it and it cannot be made up. So it's only if a single individual runs into some trouble and you can't reschedule, that you want to say there is an option, a safety net built into the class to help that one individual. Everyone must move on though. The train is out of the station and meet without your person. I hope that doesn't happen. That's why I give lots of opportunities. Let me know what you need as a team. There's plenty of space in between these meetings to get it in, and I'm not so worried about the due date on these because it is such an important assignment and it is the foundation of the class. Uh, so, talk to me about that if you need more information. All right. At the very end of the term, you have a keystone report, a final book report, not a final book, a final leadership report. And those of you who are in the organizational leadership program, you're headed towards your exit project. The leadership report is not the essay that's due for the exit project, but it is all the materials that you'll need for completing your exit project. So you really want to concentrate on that leadership report, thinking about your OL 690 exit report, your exit project. And there's a final book report video that you will do. You'll be reporting about your book throughout the class and your roundtables and other things, but there is one final book report, which is a discussion board and what? A presentation again. Lots of video presentations. This is a communication class, and communicating is one of the skills we will be working on. So get ready. All right. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Getting this class ready is such a big deal. I really go through it with a fine-tooth comb. But if you see anything that looks off, if it looks like it was meant for a different term, because sometimes there's ghosts in there, and you're like, that's weird. Why does it say that? It might be a ghost from another term. Just send me a message and can go in and clean it up if you do see something like that. All right, everybody, I look forward to this term with you and enjoying this summer and learning about how to functionally manage our interpersonal conflicts. All right, everyone. Bye-bye.